Okay, I think we're good. I'm gonna have to go through the playback right here, and this is how you can tell when you haven't been you haven't done this in a while, right? So yeah, I've gone through. Yeah, I went through shit. I've been talking for probably like 5-10 minutes talking about shit. I didn't hit the go live button. Epic fail. First stream back in a long time. I've talked a little bit. Forgot to hit the go live button right here. Fail. So let's run this back to the top, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. Oh boy, way to come back to the internet, right? Reset. So thank you for joining me tonight. We are going to be talking about some unpopular writing opinions here. And I do apologize for having to miss last week. I intended this to be, I intended to do this last week, but I had a bit of a family emergency. I needed to take my wife to the ER because she was having some respiratory issues, sick, ended up having bronchitis. I was having a difficult time breathing, so had to go take care of that. So I do apologize for having to push this back a week. I apologize for that. But anywho, so starting off spicy tonight with a hot take opinion on AI. And yeah, so I got my notes here so I don't ramble too much. And opinion number one, AI is not the devil and won't be the downfall of creativity. Now, spicy opinion that I agree with. And don't shoot me, don't shoot the messenger here. Okay, I'm gonna elaborate. Yeah, so the big fuss about AI is obviously that I always think of the South Park meme of they took the job, the redneck South Park meme. Hilarious. Um and there's merit to that, right? Because big companies have already begun implementing these things. One of the more recent events that I found pretty funny, or not funny, funny is not the right word, interesting, I guess, is some reputable news sources creating or I guess reputable in quotations now. Creating entire articles without like doing the due diligence of correcting the AI. It's very blatantly articles written by AI, and not only were the articles written by AI, but the people that the articles were attributed to were also generated by AI. I'm blanking on the actual news sources in here. This was a story that was covered on Internet Today not too long ago. Awesome show here on YouTube. Highly recommend you guys check that out. They cover a lot of news, but yeah, this is basically the fear here, and it's not without merit because it's already happening in a lot of places. And in our neck of the woods here, writing books and fiction, it's especially bad because publishing is already a hyper competitive space, both in the publishing world and in the self-publishing world, for different reasons. But we're going to talk self-publishing for now, because that is where AI is really coming into play here. The self-publishing market prior to AI was already like super flooded because there were no hurdles. There's no barrier to entry when it comes to self-publishing, which is a good thing. However, because there's no barrier to entry, pretty much all you got to do is create an Amazon KDP account, you know, get your manuscript together, get a cover together, wham bam upload, and yeah, you put a book out for free. So because the barrier is there's no barrier there, it's great in a lot of ways for writers to get their work out there who never could have, because the alternative is traditional publishing. You got to get an agent. You're most likely not going to get into publishing houses without representation. That's literally, agents exist to connect writers to publishers. And the chances of getting the attention of a literary agent, I mean, before I went full on the self publishing route, I did spend some time careering, and I sent maybe 50 odd emails to agents trying to get. Now, granted, if you do research, that's kind of lowballing it, because I was always kind of leaning towards self publishing for other reasons. But the point I'm trying to make here is that you're not going to get into publishing without an agent, and to get an agent is hard. So self-publishing is really the popular avenue for a lot of authors. But because there's no barrier to entry, there's no checks and balances there. You don't have to hire an editor to, you know, fix up your work, make it pretty. You don't have to hire a cover artist to make it, you know, good, look great. You don't have to do a lot of things. You can, by all means, publish a book completely free.com, and it's probably going to be trash. And that's part of the problem as to why the market is so flooded self-publishing, and it's hard to break into, and it's hyper competitive. So now you bring AI into the picture, and you can, you know, folks with bad intentions can flood that market even more, even faster, by not even going through the work of putting together subpar bare minimums. They can have a, you know, AI churn that out, and it'd be, I don't know if you've ever like attempted to have AI do this or play with it at all, or see like fiction AI is written. It can be like so incoherent. It's weird, right? But yeah, so that's the problem, and that's a very big problem, and it's not to be ignored. However, I don't believe that is going to necessarily lead to the end of creativity when it comes to writing, and that AI is 100% bad and can't have a place in the writing space. I'm of the mindset that the proper way to do this, and this comes from my my background. If you don't know, I work in technology, not in development, but in support. So yeah, the name of my number one asset that helps me get through my job is adaptability. Things change all the time, constantly, and AI is no different. It's not going to go anywhere. Like, no matter how hard it's lobbied against, how, you know, how many pitchforks are raised against it, it's not going to go anywhere. It's only going to continue to improve. So it behooves you, and it is in your best interest to, rather than fight it, to learn how to use it and use it ethically. Because yeah, you can be the author to fight against it and continue to go down that path without it, while everyone else chooses the other path of working with it and doing it in an ethical way, and they will undoubtedly have an advantage, right? So here are the ways that I use AI. So when it comes to the writing process, the like bane of my existence is having to name things. And I'm talking character names, city names, names for like mythical creatures or whatever. I do not like to have to name things. I don't know why. I struggle with this, right? So typically what I've done before is like when it comes to like creature names in fantasy, I typically stick with pre-established races, species or whatnot, dragons, elves, whatever. That's easy. I can put my own flair on it. You know, my elves don't necessarily have to follow Tolkien elves or, you know, that's typically my stance for like things like that. But when it comes to like naming things and places, a lot of times what I would do is, and this would take me an hour or two, depending on how much I needed, right? But I would scour the internet looking for, you know, a list of like, I don't know, let's say I was writing a medieval fantasy something, whatever, set in kind of like English backdrop or something. I would go through and I'd be like, you know, Google search, give me English sounding boys' names popular in such and such time period. And just go through website after website, collecting, cherry picking names. So I had a list of about 10 to 20 for, you know, male names, 10 to 20 for female names, 10 to 20 for surnames. The really more difficult ones were like names of like places, towns, and whatnot, because those have to have more of an artistic flair. But anyway, it would take me, I would say, like an hour or two to do this. Now, what I've begun doing since the, you know, advent of AI is, you know, load up Chat GPT, tell it to, yo, spit me 20 names following this criteria. Bam, quick, gives me the 20 names. Grab what I like, tell it to give me 20 more if I didn't, you know, get enough, I feel. And again, do that for everything I needed. And what used to take me hours would take me like 20 minutes. And granted, I know that seems like not a lot of time, right? Compared to hours to minutes, but time is our most valuable resource. And as a writer, it's gonna be what you really want most of. That's time you can spend writing as opposed to generating, you know, outlining information. One of the more recent things I use AI for is just for kicks and giggles, because I wanted to see like what was the depths of how this would work, right? I gave it my book description for The Blighted Flame, and I told it to rewrite this book description, and make it more exciting or something. I forget the adjective I use. But yeah, that's pretty much what I told it to do. And yeah, it spit out like 2-3 paragraphs that rewrote what I wrote. But like some spots were like information was wrong. Some spots didn't make grammatical sense. But there were some spots that I was like, that's spicy, right? So what I ended up doing was I took what I had wrote, I took what ChatGPT rewrote, combined the two, combined the two. I promise I know how to write. Combined the two and got the best version of it. So, like, the more unethical way to have done that would be to have it, you know, write me a book description for such and such, copy and pasted, or even not fed it my own, doing the work first and having it like spruce it up or whatever. Or you know what I'm saying? And this is what I mean when you have to find the ethical way to have it improve your work and make things better. Um, yeah. Uh, Lost my train of thought. Point I'm trying to make is that yeah, AI isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's not going anywhere, so you might as well learn how to use it well. Don't be a dick while using it and using it for nefarious purposes. And it's gonna give you a leg up on the competition, especially for those who are hesitant to follow suit. Alrighty, so that's pretty much all I had. We can move on to the next topic. Um, Here we go. Opinion number 2. Writers need to read a lot in order to be a good writer. Okay, now this is one. This is one that has always bothered me. Because it hits close to home a little bit, right? Um, but yeah, that's common. That's common writing advice that a lot of authors tout, right? And it does make sense, right? If you're going to go into the medical field or whatever, you study a lot of that within that field. So yeah, same logic kind of applies, right? If you want to be a good writer, it behooves you. It's a power word for the day to to read a lot, because even if you read something and you find something you really like, you can emulate that and incorporate it into your own work in your own way and enhance your writing. It makes you a better writer. But even if it's something that sucks, you can learn from that and don't do that. However, this advice always kind of stuck me in a personal spot. Cause I was a person that I read a lot growing up. Um, and then I got introduced to video games and other forms of storytelling, and reading kind of fell off for me a little bit. Like I still read, but not nearly as much as I played video games, watched anime, and did other things. Um, and it wasn't that I didn't enjoy reading. It was just it was a cost benefit. I don't know if that's the proper term I'm looking for. Um, the way I always felt about it was that I could spend an hour sitting down reading a book, or I can spend an hour, playing a video game, having a more interactive experience and having more fun, in my opinion. Still being engaged in a nice story, because I typically like to play games. Some of my favorites, Zelda, Metal Gear series is um, one of my favorites. Yeah, it was always that was a superior form of storytelling to me. Um, but I've always been in this weird spot where my superpower was the it is the written word. So I over the years I read less and less and less, and I'd always feel a little self conscious, right? Because I get into talks with other people, especially when you're an author. One of the big questions you get is, well, who do you like to read, right? And that question always gives me pause, because like some of my more favorite authors were stuff I read when I was young, when I read a lot. But it's not more modern stuff. I don't read a lot too much. I try to read a lot I make it my quarterly goals if you guys follow my newsletter. Um, I try to make it a point to read at least 3 books a quarter. And it's a struggle to get those books in because, again, there's other things pulling at my attention that are more enticing to me. Um, and this all kind of came to a head and a conclusion for me. And I determined and found comfort in my position on here that writers don't need to read a lot to be a good writer. So I was watching a YouTube video, a few weeks ago, doing a little bit of research for a secret project I'm working on, and it was about Lil Wayne and his music writing process, his approach to music. And what I found fascinating is that, and I didn't know this, but apparently he does not listen to other hip hop artists. And the reason YouTube video gave, and I guess this, I don't know, this might be hearsay or whatever, but I'm gonna take this as fact. Because it was on the internet, it's a fact, right? But anyway, the video was saying that the reason for this is that by cutting himself off to what other hip hop artists are doing, that allows him to focus on his own work and his own craft and make his own style of music the best he can. And that's not to say that he doesn't he's shut off completely from the rest of hip hop. So obviously he collaborates with other artists, but you know, he has a confidant. If you're familiar with hip hop music and Lil Wayne and Cash Money and the Sphere over there, Mac Main is his ear to hip hop. So he'll clue Lil Wayne in, again, according to this video I watched, he'll clue Lil Wayne in on what's happening, you know, what's popping off in hip hop music. And that's how he at least stays connected to the bare minimum he needs in order to coexist in the space, right? So I was watching this video and I had just an epiphany moment. And I was like, that's not necessarily how I feel about reading and writing, but I can relate because, oh, another part that was important to it is Lil Wayne said that he much more listens to other genres of music, and you know, named off just a bunch of R&B, soul artists, country artists, and whatnot. And that's the part that really, really resonated with me, right? Was that I can relate to that because that's where my inspiration really comes from. Like, I've never really read a lot of books and was like, I mean, I've liked how, you know, some were written technically and this, that, and the third, but my inspirations for writing have all come from other mediums. One of the big things I always say is that the biggest compliment a creative person can give you is saying that what you've done has inspired them to create, to do the thing that they are best at doing. And other mediums do that for me. I'll watch a bomb ass anime and I'll be like, that was dope. The storytelling in this, the plot device, the narrative, the this, the that, the third, that was dope. I want to recreate that in my own way, or I want to incorporate that into a story I want to tell. I want to do it differently, obviously, because I'm not just going to copy things, right? But yeah, same thing for video games. So that part of the interview really resonated with me, and I'm like, that's kind of how I've always felt. That for not for everyone. Like, I do see the merit in that reading a lot can lead you to be a better writer. But I don't think that that is the end all be all, that you just absolutely have to. That's the way to improve, is to just rabidly consume books, because that's not how I do it. So this is actually leading me to something I want to try in 2024. Um, so there's one book that's on my list right now that I absolutely want to finish reading, and it's Neon Ghosts by Daniel Green. I started reading it. I still haven't finished it yet. Um, I'm working on it, but I do want to finish that, and I'm gonna have a bit of a break here, some downtime. That I really want to power through that. I got the audio. I'm listening to it on audiobook, so I really want to churn through that. I should be able to get through that before the end of the year. But I want to get through that, and then 2024, I'm abandoning my read 3 books thing. Kind of. I'm not counting manga in this. Abandoning reading, and I'm not counting nonfiction work into this. So 2024, I'm going to try, I guess, the Little Wayne method to the creative process. And I'm going to cut myself off from reading fantasy work, science fiction. I'm just going to cut myself off from reading fiction of that regard, of the written word. I'm still going to read some mangas. I'm still going to read, like I said, some nonfiction works that pique my interest. But for the most part, yeah, I'm gonna experiment with that over 2024, and I might bail early, but that's something I really want to explore, because yeah, that interview really resonated with me, so I'm looking forward to that. But let's move on to topic/opinion number 3. And this is: beta and critique partners are a necessary part of the writing process. Yeah, so this one, again, a lot of things. I'm like, bro, I really got to work on the autofocus thing here, or maybe I just need to stop moving so much. I don't know. I'm an animated person. I like moving a lot. But yeah, I'm probably gonna have to turn that off, because I'm sure that's bothering you. I apologize for that. But yeah, as we are getting back into the groove of things, yeah, we're gonna have to work on the technical side of this stuff, right? But anywho, um, I agree and disagree with this, right? So the merit, I see the merit of this, right? A lot with I guess with every topic so far, is I get where it's useful and comes into play, right? However, I wouldn't say that. So betas, I don't think are a must, and I'm hesitant to say critique partners, because I've had varying degrees of success with critique partners, but a critique source of some kind of that's the terminology I'd rather use here. A critique source, extremely important, but beta readers, I feel, present a trap per se. So, best case scenario, you get good beta readers who give you feedback. They help you, fine tune your work before it hits market, before, you pass the point of no return, you can't change it anymore, right? Excuse me. Super important. And in the best world, in the best scenarios, that's awesome, right? However, I feel like a problem that kind of happens, or can happen, I should say, is that you get beta readers and they're not useful, in the sense that you don't get good feedback, or you create an echo chamber of, just a positive loop that doesn't necessarily help you grow, if that makes sense. um Betas just that they never worked for me. And I've granted, I've had limited experience with beta readers. When I was at my point where I tried to incorporate them, I couldn't really get many. Just my social presence online is not quite, I mean, still not quite there. Working on it, working on it. But the limited experience I do have, it just wasn't conducive for producing results. Now, I do have my good critique sources. Shout out to Sam Casse, who I will trust to look over my anything I write. As long as she's willing to take me on as a client, I will be sending my work to her to have her look over it, because her top tier. If you're in the market for paid critique services, she top tier, bar none. She delivers critiques in a way that she doesn't sugarcoat things, but at the same time, she's not harsh on things. She's very fair. She catches so many things. Just great service all around. Highly recommended. So yeah, that's my approach to it. And as I've said, I've had hits and misses when it comes to critique partners for the I exchange work with you, you exchange work with me, and we help each other grow as writers. Had success with that, had failures with that. Just doesn't work for me. So I don't think they are necessary. Betas, I don't think are necessary at all. I didn't have a good job, didn't have success beta reading for the Blighted Flame, or doing betas for the Blighted Flame, to the point where I for Covenant of the Ashen Wolf, not doing betas. For the Light Darkness Forgot, not doing betas. But I trust my critique sources to help me power through and polish up and make things super nice and super pretty for you guys. So yes and no to this one. Betas I don't think are necessary. Critique partners I don't think are necessary, but you do need some level of a check and balance to make sure what you're conjuring in your brain and translating onto the page is actually landing well. Like, you do need an angel on your shoulder taking care of that. Moving on. Opinion number 4: writing sprints are cool and productive. I call bullshit on this one. Okay. So this is one, again, I tried to do here on YouTube not too long ago. Well, not at this point, probably long ago. It was this year for sure. Um, yeah, in theory, they they work, right? You get on camera, you power through, you do a sprint, writing 20 minutes, whatever. I even tried to make a game out of it when I did it and see how many words I can get on the paper before the buzzer went off. And what I found was that it's never as productive as if I just would have taken that hour or two live stream writing sprints and just fucking wrote. Like, I don't know, by the time I get into a groove of writing and I'm like, okay, I'm churning, the words are coming, the fucking timer's going off. I look at my word count and I'm like, damn, I only got like 100 or 200 words. It's fucking pitiful. I mean, I salute everyone who's able to make this work, but I don't know. They're not cool. They're not productive. They're I don't know. I mean, I have ideas for um things I want to do later on. That I think I'm gonna do over on Twitch. It's involving a secret project. Um, I have a few secret projects I'm working on that, you know, hush hush right now. But I'm thinking of giving that another stab, but that's not, it wouldn't necessarily be a writing sprint though. It, I don't know. Writing sprint, they're not for me. They're not for me, but do what works for you. If you're able to do writing sprints and you get more work done and it's a fun chill time for you, more power to you. But for me, big L, big L. Okay, uh, picking up speed here. Opinion number 5. Okay, unnecessary romantic subplots suck. This was a comment from Mashup Soul Gold 227 over on the community tab before doing this live stream. Popped over there, asked you guys for your unpopular opinions, and if I remember right, Mashup was saying didn't necessarily know if this was an unpopular opinion or not, but yeah, had the feeling that unnecessary romantic subplots basically sucked. That was the gist of the comment. First of all, thank you for submitting. But yeah, I wouldn't say that this is an unpopular opinion. Because I feel like myself included, I agree with you. I feel like that's the common that's a common opinion. That yeah, romantic subplots that are just shoehorned in for the sake of padding the book or fitting into some niche, trying to, you know, hit that romantic simple word not coming to me, market, trying to hit that market and shoehorning in a romantic subplot just to be able to say it's a romance book. Yeah, very unnecessary. They do suck. However, I am a sucker for a romantic subplot. Yes. So, the Blighted Flame has a romantic subplot. Um, that's carrying through most of the future books in the series. My voice kind of got a little high because I'm thinking about it. Um, I like romantic subplots. I do like them, but I like them to be necessary. I like them to enhance the story and not detract from the story. But see, the problem though is not necessarily with romantic subplots themselves. It's any subplot can be unnecessary, and that's the point at which you start to detract from the story, and it just drags the narrative down altogether. So yeah, the key to making really any subplot work is to tie it organically into the main plot, and that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to like hard tie it to the main plot. Like, for example, if you're writing, I don't know, an adventure story, they're on a quest to I don't know. You don't necessarily have to hard tie a romantic subplot to the main plot for it to be, because at that point you're writing more of a romance novel and it's not really a subplot because that's hardwired into the main plot. However, you can make the subplot matter and weave it in by having it affect the main plot. So, yeah, if the events of said romantic subplot are so substantial that if you remove them from the book and the main plot no longer makes sense, that you're on the right track for that. So yeah, that's the key takeaway to really any subplot here. Doesn't have to be a romantic subplot. If you're gonna write, which I highly recommend you do, that's the key way to not only write a lengthy story but a more multi-dimensional story, is to weave in. The question becomes like, how many do you try to weave in, right? I say 2 or 3. More than that, you start pushing it. But yes, weaving them into the main plot in a way to where they're not detracting from, and the main plot can't exist in its current form without the subplots. That's when you've hit that equilibrium, and it won't suck and be unnecessary. Moving on. Opinion number 6. Okay, hard magic systems are overrated, and needless complexity makes them worse. So this is one that I pulled off of Reddit, and I gotta give it a hard disagree. Yes. When it comes to hard and soft magic systems, I lean more towards hard magic. Soft magic does have its place. Now, the big arguments a lot of folks have, or the arguments that I see, is that hard magic tends to, or there's the belief that a hard magic system with rules and rigidity, they stifle creativity and what can happen in a book. And to the first part, bullshit. To the second part, kind of. But that's not a bad thing. Like, stifling creativity, no. If anything, the harder your magic system, the more creative you kind of have to be to create those rules and engagements, right? As far as limiting what can happen in a book, you need that, right? Because the softer your magic system is, the more easy it's going to be for the reader to be like, this solution to this problem that popped up in the book was bullshit. It was an ass pull. It was magic saved the day. Like, it cheapens the victories when the magic is used, the softer the magic system is. The best way to create real stakes and checks and balances is to create a magic system with hard rules and limitations. And what that does is it creates an environment where your readers are clued in to what can happen most of the time. Every once in a while, you can pull in some surprise stuff as you begin to expand on the magic system. But it always keeps things in frame for the reader. Like, for example, if your magic is set up in such a way where there's a limit on how much magic can be used before, I don't know, a guy's eye explodes or some shit, or for whatever reason, I don't know, magic is tied to the retina or something, I don't know. And you gotta drink fairy blood to get it going or whatever. Well, now you know that the protagonist only has X amount of fairy blood in their pocket and their eyes already bulging. So while they can use that extra bit of fairy blood, will their eye explode and take them out of the fight? Like, it creates more stakes, and it creates more tension because your reader's clued in on what can happen and what should and shouldn't happen. So, yeah. I feel like the big problem that really comes in for why this is such a problem for a lot of people is hard magics and them being needlessly complicated, quote unquote, is the way a lot of writers, or some writers anyway, tend to introduce their magic systems when they have, a harder system. Because a lot of times as writers, there's the urge to, you spend so much time crafting your world or how your magic works or the intricacies of X, Y, and Z. And there's that feeling that you get that the reader's not going to understand if I don't explain this, or that if I don't go into detail of how, why, when, and where. And I should do this as early as possible. Just get it all off the table so that the reader can then enjoy the story. And that's a big no-no. Don't ever do that. That is what we call info dumping. And it is the quickest way to suck a reader out of a story and kill the momentum. And just instantly take something that could be cool and awesome and just kill the joy of it. Because now you're giving me a lesson. What you want to do instead is you want to trickle feed your reader the relevant information as it becomes relevant. Only give them what they need to know when they need to know it to be able to understand what's going on or paint a vivid picture in their mind. They don't need the entire backstory of how the Dragon Clan came to such and sacrificed all the left arms or whatever to bring magic into the world to make bibbity go bobbity boop. You don't need to fucking do that. Just give what's needed to be given at the time it needs to be given so your reader's not lost, and it will go miles. And it's not going to come off so hard and rigid, even though it is, because you didn't spend pages explaining exactly how the shit works, if that makes sense. That is where I think the big problem is with this. It's not that hard magic systems, are overrated. It's just they're not explained in a way that's digestible. So, let's move on. Next opinion. Okay. Number 7. Damn, we're already on 7. Okay, hold on. Let's hydrate real quick. All right. Opinion number 7. Sure, writing every day and having a strict routine can work for some, but not everyone can write every day. And you sometimes need to just take a break. Routine can be good, but it can be deadly to your writing when you lose the passion for in the process. This is another one I got from Reddit, and I agree, but only slightly. This is one I feel it, but at the same time, not really. So the common writing advice, another big popular one, is that you need to write every single day if you want to be, a published author. And I do not agree with that in the slightest. It's fucking unrealistic. Unless you're a person that can operate on that level. I am not one of those people that can operate on that level. Or you're one of those people, and you're one of those people who have the ability to operate on that level. And not like ability as in physical ability, but ability as in financially and responsible wise. Because it's easy for Stephen King to write every single day and churn out 5,000-10,000 words a day. He's fucking Stephen King. Like nobody's gonna. That's the only thing he has to worry about, or that's the big thing he has to worry about. I guess that it's not hard for him to get up in the morning and do that. But for me, I am, a family man. I have a job, work 9 to 5. I have a dog, wife. I have so many things outside of writing that pull at my attention that writing every day is just not, it's just not fucking possible for me to do that if I want to continue to, financially support myself and my family. It's just not possible. And for me and my writing process personally, it's also not possible. This is one thing I found out in NaNoWriMo. My opinion on this, just in general, is that there's a sweet spot for me in my brain when it comes to writing. And that is, see if I remember, it's like 3 to 4 days, a total of about 6 or 7 hours total. I'm spitballing math in my head trying to remember, and remember I went to school for words, not math. So my math's probably off here. The point is, there's a finite level for me personally where I get to a point where I just, the writing is no longer fucking productive. But again, the other big thing I learned from NaNoWriMo is that you need to be consistent. So while I didn't finish NaNoWriMo that year, it was the most I had ever gotten done on a project. And it taught me to carve out that consistent time. Like writing every day isn't for me. But what works for me and what I recommend for you guys is to find that consistent time. Because the fact of the matter is that if you want to be a professional writer and you want to make this into a career, you need to treat it like it is a career and it is a business. You need to find consistency with it. And just because, I like taking the analogy of take your bullshit job. Let's, I don't know. I guess we're going low tier here. You're working at Wendy's or whatever. You don't want to fucking work, but you got to get up. You got to go to work. You get up, you do it anyway. Why can you do that for that job, but not for writing, which is your passion? You're not going to always be passionate when you sit down to write. You're not always going to have crazy sparks of imagination and the shit just flows, right? So sometimes you just got to sit down and write and get stuff on the page. And the hard part about writing, and this is going to lead into the next opinion, but the hard part about writing in the process is actually writing. Editing, you can always pretty stuff up later. The hardest part is just getting that first draft down. That is the most difficult part. So yeah, the key here is finding consistency. It's not, losing the passion for writing. You're not going to be passionate every single time you sit down to write. It's just not. If you're counting on that, you're never going to get done. Just point blank. If you're waiting for sparks of passion to sit down and write your work, you're never going to finish. And segueing in, because this segues very nicely into the next one, writing is the easiest part of the process. Hell fucking no. Writing is not the easiest part of the process. It is by far the hardest part of the process, at least for me. Maybe there's other people out there that are completely different and they find editing and revising to just be an abhorrent affront to nature. I am the complete opposite. I will take editing and revising and I'll take that shit any day of the week. Writing that first draft is just, yeah, like even if I have to like rewrite something, if I'm if I'm in that point where I'm like, going through and I'm like, yeah, this section right here, I don't know what I was thinking. This entire thing needs to be rewritten. Even that, I can find what I was going for hidden somewhere in that passage and focus on that and tackle it from a different angle. But writing like from scratch, from the brain meat, that is the hardest fucking part, getting that first draft done. Like I commend those who thoroughly enjoy that, writing that first draft and that being the best part of the process. Like, don't get me wrong, there are moments when I'm writing and I'm drafting that first draft and I'm feeling it and I'm like, I can tell that this shit is fire. You know what I mean? But I mean, that's cool and all, but I have bigger sparks when I go through and I'm like, this is good, but this will be better if I did this, or this will be, or even the opposite to that. Perhaps I was feeling that way and I was wrong. And I'm like, yeah, okay, I was really feeling that shit as I wrote it. That shit's kind of ass. Let's rewrite that to be better. Yeah, big hell no to that one. Writing is not the easiest part of the process. It is the hardest part. It is the hardest part. And here we go. Opinion number 9, and this is the last one I have on my list, ladies and gents. Science doesn't need to be accurate or precise in fiction. It just needs to sound right. That's not the same as using full-on technobabble all the time, but there is a happy medium between only using things that are rigorously peer-reviewed and things that are totally bollocks. So this is another one, this is the last one, and another one pulled from Reddit. Another one where I'm like, yeah, but no. So here's the thing with this one. Do you need to write basically a presentation on how nuclear fusion works in your book? Absolutely not. It's gonna be boring as shit. Nobody wants to read that. There will be someone who wants to read that, but I mean, most people don't want to read that super technical stuff that is highly scientific and accurate. Fact, right? However, you can't just low-key bullshit your way through it and be kind of right. Like, there's 100% a happy medium that needs to be found there. You're writing sci-fi and you're presenting cool tech. You don't need to spend pages upon pages explaining, the metal alloy and the boiling point of, I don't know, whatever the fuck. You don't have to go that deep into it. However, you do need to be accurate about it, because if you're not, not even eagle-eyed readers, but I like to give my readers the benefit of the doubt. That's again why I feel like you trickle feed information and you trust your readers to always trust your readers are smart enough to figure out what you're putting down. So yeah, like you can't just spray some shit that kind of sounds right and just expect your readers to go along with it. They're gonna call it bullshit, and especially if and you're writing science fiction. I'm sure a lot of them are into science related topics, and if they're very knowledgeable on that, they're gonna be like, no, it's bullshit. It's gonna take them out of the story. Yeah, so I agree. You don't need to be precise. You don't need to give just full-on explanations and teach courses in chemistry or whatever the fuck. You don't need to do all that while you're writing, but you do need to at least be accurate with the information that you do give. And I'll give an example, right? So the book I'm writing now is it is a Blade meets cyberpunk kind of, right? So a lot of futuristic tech. One of the primary modes of transportation that the protagonist uses is a hoverboard. Cool. And the way I've designed it is kind of like attaches to the shoes. Kind of think I don't necessarily want to know if I want to go like Back to the Future kind of hoverboard, because no. So, well, board, it's retractable, springs out, has miniature rockets that, you know, handle propulsion and direction, that, you know, rockets can rotate to, you know, swerve and everything. And everything is controlled via wirelessly with a glove wearing on the hand and through hand gestures. Now, in the book, I'm not going through and explaining, you know, how the rockets work and how the anti-collision system works for, you know, horrible scenarios, because obviously if you got fucking rockets on a hoverboard and you're zooming down, you crash into something that is going to be lethal. So obviously these devices are going to need some type of anti-collision protection. Um, but I don't spend time breaking down how that shit works, right? But I do spend a few sentences explaining how they function, if that makes sense. Or I guess how they function visually, if that makes sense. Is that how I want to describe it? Yeah. So I don't describe how they actually physically work, but I do spend a little bit of time describing how they visually work, so the reader can picture it in their mind and see it and be like, okay, that checks out. So yeah, there's, in my opinion, it's well done. I don't know. We'll see when the book comes out. But yeah, there's certainly a happy medium to be found. And yeah, I please don't become astrophysicists when writing your book and explaining things. But that's pretty much all I have got prepared for tonight. I want to thank you guys for tuning in. If you guys watch this live, or if you come and watch this after the fact, yeah, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for watching. I do apologize for having to push this back a week. I'm hoping to not have to do that too often. Obviously. But yeah, I want to make these a weekly thing. I'm leaning towards Friday nights. But I might have to reevaluate that for schedule purposes. But anywho, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for watching. I apologize for also the beginning here. Just, I can't believe I was talking for like 5-10 minutes without realizing I didn't actually hit the go live button. And now I'm interested to like go back and watch the DVR, whatever YouTube calls it, see like what exactly like showed up at the beginning of it. I'm interested to see like how bad the fuck up was at the beginning of the stream. But anywho, thank you guys for tuning in. I will catch you guys at another time. Peace out. Catch you guys later.